Dana's going to murder someone over there. So this video could have two headlines. First one would be Conor McGregor, USADA, UFC, and Dana White face a brewing public issue that is going to have a major impact on the biggest fight card of the year. Obviously, that being Conor McGregor against Michael Chandler, and a huge impact on the Ultimate Fighter season that they just got done filming. That's the longest headline in history. So I'm a headline talk for 3 paragraphs. I'm like, I don't know what newspaper that would fit on, but that's the headline. But the other one, the other actual headline would be Dana White is going to kill someone at USADA. That's a much shorter headline that would actually fit on the paper. So I'll tell you exactly what I mean in terms of the second one, because the way that this ended up on my radar was my buddy Alex texted me this morning a tweet from USADA that was a direct challenge to Conor McGregor and his ability to fight. I didn't know where it was coming from. To me, it looked like a direct attack on Conor, where it was like, where is this coming from, right? And I'll show you guys the tweet, because they're basically calling out Conor and being like, this guy thinks he's going to fight and he's not. I mean, if I was going to summarize it, and obviously I'll show it to you in detail, that was like the tone of it too. Was like, this guy seems to think that he's going to be able to fight, and he's not going to be able to fight, right? Certainly not without meeting all of the requirements that are required of any other fighter. Now, everyone has, I assume, been smart enough to know that Conor McGregor being out of the USADA testing pool is not like anyone else being out of the USADA testing pool, right? Conor is not like other people. And I just don't think that I can quantify that any more clearly than just to say that UFC is not like other sports. It's not like the NFL. It's not like Major League Baseball. There are teams in those leagues, and those teams have stars on them, okay? In the UFC, they are all fighters, individuals, and there has never been a fighter with more impact on the business than Conor McGregor, okay? So when it comes to, well, are the rules going to be meted out equally for Conor as other fighters? If you understand human incentive structures and capitalism, you have to know that whether you see it publicly or you see it behind the scenes, things are not going to be even. And I'm not throwing a rock at that at all. I understand exactly why. But obviously, optically, it looks terrible if Conor is given special treatment. And, bottom line is, this situation is hairy now, right? Something was said, now it went public. I'll get into all of it, okay? So now on this channel, we have an agreement. If you're gonna watch my content, subscribe to the channel. That's the cost. It's not a request. It is a deal that we are on the honor system about. Now, I give you the videos. I don't charge any money. I just want you to subscribe to the channel once, and then we're good. Now, I always say it's like having candy at the front of the store. You leave a quarter. It's on the honor system or whatever. But here's what I'm going to say today. You know what kind of person would take the candy and not leave the quarter? Fabio would. I was always thinking about it because I always say that. I'm like, what kind of person would take the candy and not leave a quarter? It's like Fabio would. Fabio would. And here's exactly what it would look like. He would go into the jar. They have like those York patties, and he would grab one. He would grab the York patty, and he would take it out, and he would put it on the ground, and he would go. And he wouldn't leave a quarter because he can't lift one because it weighs the exact same amount as he does. And he would take that York patty that's the same size as him, and he would roll it down the street. Roll the York patty down the street, and then he would eat it for 2 months. So yeah, subscribe to the channel, and we'll go. So Conor McGregor goes on Ariel Helwani's show yesterday, and he does an interview. Great interview. Conor seems to be in a very good place. He seemed really, he seemed really humble. He seemed really focused. I really liked what I saw from him on Ariel's show, and it reminded me why I like him so much. He's one of those guys that's so charismatic. He's so charismatic where listen, like the bottom line is, dude, if people are out of sight, they're out of mind, right? And so like if all you're doing, if you're just reading a headline, it's like, hey, Conor McGregor like kicked a girl in the stomach and she threw herself off a boat. You're like, geez, it sounds like this guy's a different person than I remember. And then he does an interview. You're like, man, he's awesome. That's what it was like for me anyway. Ariel asked him he asked him if he thought that there was a chance that Conor could fight twice this coming year. And Conor said, yes, for sure.
Any chance you fight twice this year?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you know, I can see it moving pretty fast when it moves. You know, we're gearing up and there's a lot going on behind the scenes and all, but I feel it will move fast. There's no issue why it shouldn't move fast. So I assume late summer, maybe a little bit later, depending. I would like that, and then of course that's still half the year.
So Ariel asked a follow-up question, which is, well, so there's been a lot of hubbub made about the USADA testing pool situation, and what is the current status of that? And Conor said, well, we have an interview scheduled with them, and from what I understand, as long as I have 2 clean tests, then I'm going to be good to go.
Has been made of this USADA pool. Are we back in finally? Because that's when the clock starts to the comeback, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not rushing nothing, right? So there's hurdles and whatnot, but we're in contact, we're in constant communication, and there's an interview scheduled and a meeting happened, and then it will be official.
Okay.
So, but the 6-month thing is not what they had said. Was it's 2 clean tests.
Yeah.
And
so. That subsequently apparently was a problem because that got edited out of because it was being streamed live, and so it went live, and then it got edited out of the version that was on YouTube on Ariel's show. Now, if this had not already been put up by other creators, I probably wouldn't put it up because I want Conor to fight as soon as possible, and I really don't want to be any kind of catalyst that makes the story bigger. But once the story's out, I mean, the story's obviously out because USADA responded to it on Twitter. So, you know, but the bottom line is obviously that was problematic because they edited it out, and then USADA immediately, you know, the next day responded to Conor on Twitter and said the following, okay? And believe me, there's a lot of context beyond this too. So the USADA statement was, while we meet with all athletes who re-enter the testing pool, we do not currently have a meeting set with Conor, and as of today, we have not received notice of his coming out of retirement to compete. The UFC's rules are clear that in addition to 2 negative tests, an athlete must make themselves available for testing for 6 months before returning to competition. This is a fair way to ensure an athlete does not use the retirement status to gain an unfair advantage by using prohibited substances during the retirement period, which would enhance the performance unfairly if they ultimately decide to return to competition. While the rules permit the UFC to make an exception to the 6-month rule in exceptional circumstances, when the strict application of the rule would be manifestly unfair to the athlete, our position, which we have made clear, is that Conor should be in the testing pool for the full 6-month period. Okay, so let's break down what this says, and let's break down what it means, and let's break down why Dana's going to murder someone over there, okay? So what it says is that the UFC, while the rules permit the UFC to make an exception to the 6-month rule in exceptional circumstances, when the strict application of the rule would be manifestly unfair to the athlete, our position, which we have made clear, is that Conor should be in the testing pool for the full 6-month period. That is how you know that USADA put this out and not UFC. So if UFC would have triggered this tweet going out, it would have said the UFC can make an exception to the 6-month rule with exceptional circumstances, blah, blah, blah. They absolutely, for sure, would not have put that. Make sure you say USADA's position is that Conor McGregor should be in the testing pool for 6 months. And the reason why I know that is because Conor is the driving force behind the biggest pay-per-views that UFC's ever done. And these guys have metrics that are so accurate, it's probably, I mean, ridiculous. And everyone knows that if Conor does Ultimate Fighter and then gets to fight afterwards with Chandler, of all people, it is going to be an absolute blockbuster. It's going to be one of the biggest pay-per-views ever. It's going to be huge. It's going to be absolutely huge. And so there's just absolutely no way that Dana would have put out a message in response to an answer that Conor gave, like a candid answer that Conor gave on Ariel's show, where he was just being humble and just giving an honest answer. He's like, yeah, I've been told that, like, as long as I have 2 clean tests, that we'll be good to go. And, you know, look, like, is Conor probably going to be given special treatment? Of course. But let's honestly assess whether or not what he is being given is going to give him an unfair advantage, right? Because I don't think that it will. Honest, I don't think it will. Now, I obviously have, more experience putting agents in my body that would, prohibit me from being a USADA tested athlete. You know what I mean? But bottom line is, when you get off that, if you're going to test clean on whatever substance that you've taken, it's not giving you some kind of unfair advantage at the time, as far as I understand it. Certainly not if it's in the testosterone family. If what we're talking about is testosterone stuff, like, you're not, I don't care what anybody says. If you haven't done it, yourself, then just save it, dude. Okay? Trust me. If you haven't gone on and then gone off, then I'm telling you, by the time you could test clean, like, the benefit is not only all but gone. In many cases, you're worse off than when you did it. Now, in Conor's case, I would imagine that what he was probably taking has to do with things that will help him grow bone, right? He shattered his leg, man. Okay? So now I'll just give you my opinion on this in general. Not only do I think that Conor should be given an exemption, I think every athlete that suffers a catastrophic injury should be given an exemption. As simple as that. If what they're rehabbing, if what the prohibited substance that they are going to ingest is something that's going to help them heal from a catastrophic injury sustained while fighting in the UFC, then of course, man, let them take it, dude. I mean, there's a life beyond fighting. You know what I mean? And they shouldn't have to sacrifice their life beyond fighting to be able to stay compliant with USADA as they try to recover from a potentially career-ending injury. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they're going to take a thing and it's going to help them walk better in the event that they heal correctly, or they can say, hey, man, you might be able to come back to the UFC for a couple fights if you stay off this stuff, but then it might not heal as well. And then if you can't fight, or you come back, you fight once and then you walk funny it's like, come on, dude. As long as it's a reasonable treatment for the injury sustained, what are we talking about? Now, I realize, just as an example, like HGH or something, or like a peptide, actually, for a let's say you had a torn bicep tendon as an example, and there was some peptide that's going to help you build collagen in your tendons. Like, let them take it, dude. As long as they have a clean test after, what's it, right? I mean, anyway, that's my opinion. So the other impact on this thing, though, because now this cat's out of the bag, dude. They tweeted about it, right? So Conor said it, and now USADA tweeted about it. So what's the impact going to be? Well, it's going to be huge. It's going to be a huge impact because they filmed The Ultimate Fighter. Okay? They filmed it. I would imagine they're going to air it very, very close to the fight, right? They need to have the fight booked. They need a date. Okay? Like, they need a date. They're going to air it, and then they need the fight to be soon afterwards. And so not only are they if Dana thinks he can get 2 Conor fights in 2023, and the USADA testing is going to, prohibit him from doing that, and it's also going to delay the launch of The Ultimate Fighter and all that, dude, he's getting an exemption. Bet your life on that. I mean, bet your life on it. At least he was before all of this happened. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, look, dude. I mean, don't all of you guys want him to get an exemption? I mean, let's just be honest, right? If you're, I mean, I can understand if you're a UFC fighter and you have rehabbed a really bad injury, like staying in USADA, like, I can understand them being like, no, this is bullshit. Like, why should he get special treatment? I understand, but the real answer is, don't you wish that you would have been allowed to do that? I mean, if there's a way to make this set precedent, that would be great. Honestly, that's what I would be doing behind the scenes if I was a fighter. I'd be like, look, I have no problem with Conor getting an exemption as long as the other fighters get it also. Right? Because anyway, bottom line is this. He's going to get the exemption, I would say almost for sure. And that's good for everyone because we want Conor to fight. Don't you guys wish Conor and Chandler were going to fight in a month? I do. I wish they were fighting this weekend. So, anyway, that's pretty much what I got. Again, I thought Conor looked great on the aerial video. I think Dana is going to roll someone's head down the hallway at USADA, and that is what it is. So I'm back from spring break. Thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. Peace.